So I think the first thing that I was doing is I was making a list of schools that were within my reach with my GMAT score, which was a 730 at the time I was applying, and what kind of consulting they do in the tech area. So I made a very clean, efficient storyline of, I just don't want to do consulting. Within consulting, this is an area I want to focus on. And this all aligns with the experience I have at PwC. Thought I had prepared very well. I think out of the 5 mock interviews, the first one was where I realized I'm not prepared at all. Like my intro was not up to mark. My answers were not coherent. It was all over the place. Second and third interview was I think I remember it was with ISB alumni. So I had a lot of goal specific question and why ISB, what to do if not ISB, my plan B, and all things to do with ISB. So this is something which I did not have clarity on. It was very generic. So I got to, work on those areas, refine it, and I used to directly ask them. So I think one thing that I think everybody should do, not just people with my background, is you need to start early and get GMAT out of the way because there is a chance you will have to write it multiple times. In my case, I had to do it twice.
So, Jayvardhan, thank you so much for doing this session with us. As you must be aware that we record these experiences to show it to the students, or prospective applicants with similar backgrounds to help them understand how this journey goes and what does it take to make it to the ISB. So let's start by understanding your academic and professional profile, Jayvardhan.
So I joined NIT Trichy in 2015 to pursue my degree in engineering. I specialized in chemical engineering, and I think alongside this, I was also very actively involved in multiple clubs and associations during the academic period, during the period of my undergrad. So like clubs like ISEC, I was a part of the training placement committee, which was I think one of the most impactful roles I've had, and a lot of other clubs and festivals activities. Like I was always doing something or the other apart from usual chemical engineering subject that I had. So I think when my final year, which was beginning of mid 2018, is when all the campuses came down for recruitment, and I was lucky enough to get a job with PwC during that time. So I got an offer from PwC during the campus recruitment drive, and I eventually joined them in 2019. So I moved back to Mumbai, where I am from originally, and I've been working with PwC. I'm technically a part of their US advisory team, so they have multiple offices in Mumbai and Bangalore. So they cater to a lot of US-based clients, ranging to all kinds of industries that you can think of: TMT, healthcare. You have consumer markets. You have pure technology, pure IT role, SAP based, all of like a lot of things that PwC does today. So I joined them as an associate in 2019, and I think my journey at PwC has been very diverse because the first 2 years I was working in their AI and ML team. So we're building sophisticated AI models for very specific client usage. So I think think about NLP, think about deep learning algorithms, computer vision, all of these things. So, like from 2019 to 2021, I was focused on this role as a developer. I actually was a part of a patent pending project during this time. And eventually I transitioned to this team called Deal Analytics. So we basically perform due diligence for all kinds of merger and acquisition deals that happen in the United States in the private equity space. So that has been my focus area in the past 3 years. And then throughout this, like one thing that I've always been like what I've been doing at the firm is I've been using technology to develop assets for like my team members in the firm and also clients outside. So that's my journey at PwC.
So you are a chemical engineer, and what you're doing is completely different now. So how was this journey? Was it easy? Was it difficult? How did you prepare for these roles?
Yeah. So I think one thing that is I think very prominent across all engineering institutes, in fact, is you don't really sit for your core engineering roles. You sit for like a data analytics. Analytics is the new hot thing. I think it's been going on for quite some time now.
Yes, it is.
So, and it's a skill. It's a skill that engineers, because of the way you've done your JE preparation, because of the way you've been trained during the curriculum, you are able to pick up things very quickly. So when I joined PwC, they immediately put me in a team where I had to write a lot of Python code, and I'd never in my life written a single line of code ever. I knew very basic level programming that I did during my schooling, but I had no idea whatsoever. So I learned everything on the job and I got very good at it. So I think it's as an engineer, it is easy for people to, pick up on these skills and, master that very, very quickly. So I think that is something that worked out very well for me in the firm. And I had the room to experiment as well.
Nice. And I remember you said that you wanted to go into management consulting after your MBA.
Yeah.
So, how have you or how are you planning to navigate your career to make it into management consulting?
Yeah, sure. So I think one thing that was good about PwC was it was in a way a version of management consulting focused from an analytics domain. And I want to do that for, all these big companies like BCG and McKinsey. And the good thing is that they also have a very tech focused management consulting roles that they have. It's not just writing code, you also understand how to integrate things. So
Right.
that is an area that I want to focus on during my consulting journey later on. And I think it was something that essentially why I require an MBA, because I don't have the foundational knowledge of how to run a business or how to understand business.
Yeah.
So I think my focus is going to be on, studying all finance based and strategy based courses. So that we have the business acumen to think of the problem statement outside of just writing a simple code and, giving outputs. So that is the core core way I'm thinking I'm going to approach this. Alongside that, you have case study competition, you have management consulting club, you have all other activities that happen at ISB as well. So through that, I think I'm going to build up on my portfolio and fill up my resume, to sit for placements.
And you would have considered many schools, before applying and making it to ISB. Why do you think ISB is the place for you?
Yeah, so I think one good thing that I had was I was always working alongside ISB alumni. So that was a very good thing. So PwC used to recruit at ISB. So like till date, I've been working with like 3 or 4 ISB alumni in my team, like right from my immediate manager to like a senior director in the firm. Everybody's from ISB. So I think I had a first-hand interaction of what ISB is like. And secondly, another family member of mine is also from ISB. So I know he's been doing extremely well. He was, I think, batch of 2010 or 2011. So very, very old senior batch. So like ISB was always there in my head. Like I knew like that is one school in India that I need to go to. And given that I have 4 years of experience, no other school matches up to the level which ISB is at right now. You either join IIMs as a fresher or you don't join IIMs at all. Like, PGPX, all of these programs are still up and coming. But ISB is well established for people who come with experience. You don't have freshers coming there. So that was one of the core reasons why I chose ISB. And secondly, I think being in India, the cost factor is also another thing, So if you have a 1 year degree, you are easily able to get back out in the market and, you don't have a big opportunity loss in terms of the money that you will be letting go of. Yeah. So I think those were the 2 reasons why I felt like ISB was like the perfect place for me. I have applied to B schools in the United States, but I think over there, because of an international candidate, you need to have at least 2 years to settle down, experiment, and just get comfortable. But in India, you don't really need that because I've already done that. So ISB was like the perfect fit in that sense.
Indeed. And you are an engineering graduate and having worked around 4 years in PwC as a senior associate. What was your application strategy and primary focus area when you started writing your application?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that I was doing is I was making a list of schools that were within my reach with my GMAT score, which was a 730 at the time I was applying. And I was also thinking of whether I need to write the exam again, whether I'll have time or not. But once I had everything in place, I started working on my essays because I knew that, I can't balance out my work, essays, and applications together. So one of them has to be prioritized. If I don't do well in my application, nothing is going to work on. My GMAT score won't help me. So that was one of the first things I did. I made a list of schools that I thought were, I was reasonably, I had a reasonable chance of at least getting a shot at an interview. Once I had that figured out, then I started networking with alumni and just trying to understand what the school environment is like. And, just try to figure out with the questions that I have in my essays, where do I take their inputs? Like, how do I narrate my story well? And the third thing was getting my story of consulting in place. So I think that was one thing that I spent a lot of time upon. I had a lot of edits, a lot of reruns of how I'm portraying my consulting story because everybody who's applying to a B school is writing that, I want to pivot to consulting. So it is not unique if you just mention that you want to pivot to consulting. So that's where I realized, I have a tech background. I researched a lot across the target employers I wanted to work for in terms of how they're using tech and what kind of consulting they do in the tech area. So I made a very clean, efficient storyline of, I just don't want to do consulting. Within consulting, this is an area I want to focus on. And this all aligns with the experience I have at PwC. So that way, my story was very well connected and it was very reasonable, very, people, it was very convincing. So I think that worked out really well. So that was my focus, getting my goals in place. Really.
Yeah, I think bringing the clarity in, what consulting you want to do, rather than just stating management consulting, that certainly would have helped, bring more clarity, and
Yeah,
that would
yeah,
have helped you explain things in detail in the interview. How much time did
correct.
ISB give you to prepare for your admissions interview?
Yeah, I think this was a journey, I think, very frustrating. So I applied in round two.
Mhm.
And while I was waiting, like, it's just, I celebrated my birthday in 2nd of Jan. I got an email from them that, you have an interview in like 5 days. So I immediately
Oh,
signed up with ISBmantra for the interview package. I
right.
had like 5 interviews in a span of 3 days. I was up and
Yes.
top, I was ready. 5, 6 hours before my interview schedule, they give me a call and like, we have to reschedule because of some logistics issue and my interview got cancelled. So that was a big bummer. And this was supposed to happen in person in Mumbai. So I felt like, those 3, 4 days I was at like 100%, efficiency. I was gunning completely for ISB. I was ready with everything I needed to,
Right.
perform in the interview. But then they postponed it. I'm like, I just have to wait. And I just got lazy again, like I have. And eventually, 20th of Jan is when I had my interview. That happened online. I was kind of frustrated because I wanted to get the in-person feel. You don't get to do that very often.
Yeah.
So I mean, it happened online 20th of Jan. So I feel like I had a lot of time indirectly in a way. So yeah, that was.
Great. And, so you went through these 5 sessions with us, several mock interview, counseling sessions, career goal sessions. While you had already prepared for your interview, how did these sessions kind of help you to streamline your thought process?
Yeah, yeah. I thought I had prepared very well. I think out of the 5 mock interviews, the first one was where I realized I'm not prepared at all. Like my intro was not up to mark. My answers were not coherent. It was all over the place. Nothing was crisp. And I realized that this is not like a casual conversation. You have to be extremely professional, and you can't converse the way you do normally with your colleagues. So that is when I had to go back to study and reiterate all my answers, rewrite, reword everything. I think that first interview just got me down to reality. And I always thought I was a good interview, but I realized I wasn't very good at framing my answers well. And I think that was probably the best thing I had because it also impacted other interviews that I've given for other B schools. Like this gave me a very good foundation, not just for ISB, but for like other B schools as well. So the first interview was where I had point like a lot of homework to do. Second and
Mhm.
third interview was I think I remember it was with ISB alumni. So I had a lot of goal specific question and why ISB, what to do if not ISB, my plan B, and all things to do with ISB. So this is something which I did not have clarity on. It was very generic. So I got to work on those areas, refine it, and I used to directly ask them. Like both my interviews were in consulting. So I just asked him, if this does not happen, what would you have done? So
Ah,
that way I got a lot of clarity on plan B options.
right,
And coincidentally, these plan B option was something that I was asked in other interviews as well. So I had these answers ready. So it,
right.
it worked out. It worked out pretty well for me. And I think the last mock interviews was just warm up in a way. Like I had all the content prepared, and I think it gave me confirmation that I am ready to go. And I think it helped me a lot, not just for ISB, but for like other interviews as well. So yeah, yeah, very, very helpful.
And the actual interview which happened, what were the key focus areas during the interview?
Yeah, yeah. I just have the interview report. Just give me a second.
Sure.
So I think the first thing that they asked me, not even an introduction, was just tell me about your journey because they were also curious to see how I
Hmm.
went from being a chemical engineer to doing management
Yeah,
consulting
correct.
because I had a lot of variety in my roles at PwC as well. So the first question, like my interviewer asked me was straight up, help me understand why you did what you did during your time at PwC. So that is how we began, and then a lot of questions surrounding that was focused on my work. A couple of behavioral questions in terms of leadership, in terms of like, a project that I had a very high impact on. And there's another question around, so I had this story point about how I taught math to my peers in the first and second year at college. So the interviewer straight up asked me, you've gone through the IIT JEE road, you're going to have people who are as smart as you are. Then who is it that you were teaching math over there? Like everybody knows the subject.
Yeah.
So that was another question I had to think on spot and frame an answer that was very convincing. So that was another question. I think apart from that,
yeah, ideally these are the areas which they would have tested you on.
yeah, it was a very. They did not ask me anything about why ISB, what you want to do at ISB, nothing at all. Like all they asked me was like, what do you want to do within? Like so, they asked me within managing consulting, what did I want to do? So that was the question they asked me straight up. So like, thankfully, I had an answer prepared for that.
Did they ask you anything about ISEC, your ISEC experience?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, nothing related to my college POs as PR at all. Like it was very, very work focused and just like career goals focused.
Cool. That's nice. And now that you have admit, are there any specific things you have planned before you join the program?
Nothing in terms of what I'm going to study before. So I'm just going to be traveling and I'm started focusing on fitness a lot. So I think 1.5 months I have I'm just focusing on that actually. I resigned from work, so I have that barrier that I don't have to sit and just get taxed all the time. So like that way I'm like in a good comfort zone. So I'm going to travel right before I join ISB, and I think fitness is another like hardcore focus on that for now.
Great. Before we wrap up, Jay, what's your advice to prospective applicants with similar background, especially engineers, wanting to go into consulting?
Yeah. So I think one thing that I think everybody should do, not just people with my background, is you need to start early and get GMAT out of the way, because there is a chance you will have to write it multiple times. In my case, I had to do it thrice. So to get that very high competitive score, you need to have good amount of bandwidth to have time for re-attempts. So that is very crucial. And once you're done with the GMAT, start working on your essays, approach your recommender early, just truly understand whether he's going to be comfortable writing an LOR for you with the content as well. Because a lot of people, in fact, this happened with me as well. My recommender was not very comfortable writing a certain things about, what I wanted him to write. So a lot of things happened. This was right in the smack of the deadline. So I was in a pressure. I was at a point where my recommender is going to write something, but it's not going to be up to the mark. So a lot of things like these happen. So I need to really ensure your recommender is going to truly support you and hype you up as much as he can. And the third thing I think is coming to the goals. I think as an engineer, you need to be absolutely crystal clear on what your goals are. And it has to be extremely realistic in terms of what your profile has been so far. Like you can't write that, I've done I've done accounting. I want to be a product manager. That is not something that the B school will call it out very easily. They'll call they'll say this is never going to work out for you, and they might not take you. So your goals have to be very realistic. And I think the last thing is that like especially with ISB essays, when they talk about strengths and weaknesses, like I heard from my batch, like some of my ISB folks who are currently studying over there, that a lot of people wrote things that are not even relevant from a B school point of view. So you need to make sure all of your essays, all of your strengths and weaknesses, they kind of make sense in the professional realm as well, and kind of give some glimpse of your personality. Like I remember, for instance, my friend told me one of the person had written about his love story, now he failed in life. I'm like, I was very surprised to see someone write that in a B school essay. But things like these will just instantly throw you out. Like your money, your effort, everything. So you have to make sure that your stories, your goals, everything is talking to each other and it aligns. So I think that is my advice.
Very apt and very valuable input, Jay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Again, congratulations, Jay. And wish you all the best. This 52 weeks roller coaster ride will be very interesting. It will all finish even before it starts. That's how the
I know.
So we wish you all the best and do keep in touch. Anything, any help you would need, because we've been sending students there. It's over a decade now. So any help required, feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you.